The maps inherited from the Muslim world and the accounts of Marco Polo were rich in detail for the interior of Asia. But the coasts, the gateways to unimaginable wealth, were still guesswork. The map of Asia had a vast, soft underbelly, the Indian Ocean and the Pacific fringe. This void represented millions in potential profit for any European power daring enough to fill it. The historical timeline now shifts dramatically to the late 15th century, driven by technological marvels that made long-distance mapping possible. The caravel, a fast, maneuverable ship, the astrolabe, for calculating latitude, and the increasingly refined magnetic compass. The goal was simple, yet revolutionary, to bypass the Ottoman and Venetian monopolies on the spice trade by sailing directly to the source. The Portuguese pioneers, 1498 to 1550 AD. The Portuguese were the trailblazers. Their mission was not just trade, it was a cartographic crusade. Every voyage was a surveying mission, and every landing was a fixed point on a constantly evolving map. The pivotal moment was Vasco da Gama's arrival in Calicut, India, in 1498. This single event shattered the geographic perception of the Indian Ocean as a closed system. Now, instead of relying on second-hand Arab portolan charts, European navigators began to draw their own. Charting the monsoon sea. The Portuguese approach to mapping the Asian coasts was methodical and brutal. They established feitorias, trading posts or forts, at strategic points, each acting as a new, accurate anchor point for their cartographers. Goa, 1510, became the capital of Portuguese India and the central mapping hub for the subcontinent's western coast. Malacca, 1511, its capture was a cartographic coup. It gave the Portuguese control over the critical strait and, crucially, access to local knowledge and charts of Southeast Asia. This allowed them to map the vast archipelagos of Indonesia and the Malay Peninsula with unprecedented detail. It was the Portuguese cartographers working from bases like Goa who finally corrected Ptolemy's biggest error, the landlocked Indian Ocean. They proved its vastness and its connection to the Atlantic. Their maps, compiled in secret archives, the Libro de toda la Traza, were guarded state secrets, often punishable by death if shared with rivals. The discovery of the true East, the Spice Islands. The true challenge lay further east. The Spice Islands, the Moluccs, were the holy grail, the source of cloves and nutmeg. The voyage of Alfonso de Albuquerque's fleet charted the coasts of Sumatra, Java, and the Lesser Sundas. It was the pursuit of these islands that led to the first definitive, accurate placement of Southeast Asian islands on a European map. The result was a dramatic stretching of Asia further east than Ptolemy had ever conceived. The Spanish Sweep and the Pacific Problem, 1521. While the Portuguese focused on sailing east around Africa, the Spanish, spurred by the Treaty of Tordesillas, sought a western route across the Pacific. This led to the second monumental cartographic achievement in Asia, the mapping of the Pacific Fringe. Ferdinand Magellan's circumnavigation, 1519 to 1522, was a disaster for the man, but a triumph for cartography. Though he died in the Philippines, 1521, his expedition proved two things crucial to the map of Asia. The Pacific Ocean was unimaginably larger than anyone, especially Columbus, had believed, and the Philippines, a vast and complex archipelago, were finally placed on the map, becoming a major Spanish base of operations and a long-term hub for trade with China. The Spanish cartographers, using Manila as their primary base, starting from the late 16th century, began the slow, arduous task of mapping the complex coastlines of East Asia, often in competition with the Portuguese and later the Dutch. Japan and the Hidden Sea, the Great Wall. For a long time, Japan, Sipangu, remained a mysterious, exaggerated island known only from Marco Polo's accounts. The first relatively accurate, though still simplified, placement of Japan on a European map occurred only after the arrival of Portuguese traders and Jesuit missionaries like Francis Xavier in the 1540s. These reports helped cartographers move beyond Ptolemy's fanciful descriptions and give Japan its recognizable shape and position relative to the Korean peninsula, which itself remained poorly charted until the 17th century. As the 16th century ended, the map of coastal Asia had been largely perfected from the Arabian Peninsula to the Japanese archipelago. The main coastal features, the location of major ports, and the relative positions of the islands were established. But one colossal feature remained a mystery: the northern coast of Asia, the Arctic frontier. Nobody knew if Asia was attached to America, how far north it extended, or if a navigable route, the legendary Northeast Passage, existed. This massive, frozen blank space represented the last great geographical challenge of the continent.